Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about the Aaron Hernandez trial. Now, Aaron Hernandez, former NFL player with the New England Patriots, is charged with allegedly killing Odin Lloyd on June 7, 2013. The jury began deliberations today. He's also indicted on a charge on May 15th, 2014. That's the date he was indicted, on a double homicide. Now, when I look at this, assuming he did this, and if he is by all means guilty, is charged, you figure this person squandered an opportunity to make an exorbitant amount of money with the New England Patriots, or maybe perhaps them in another team or other teams, depending on where he was going to wind up playing ultimately for the duration of his career. He had a $40 million contract with the Patriots when he was charged with this current murder charge that he's on right now. And if he's found guilty, he could be facing life in jail without parole. Now, if they get him for having the lesser charge, he would be in there for 15 years with an opportunity to get parole at that time. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I think he's probably, in all probability, will be found guilty, and probably on the higher charge. I think he might get the second, but we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Now, I think a lot of times when athletes, when they become involved in some heinous crime, if he isn't, assuming Hernandez did this, they get this feeling of invincibility and feeling of being impervious to any kind of charge, and as far as anything criminal goes. Now, what people have to realize, and especially that now the people that are on a high stature in life, if they have positions of notoriety and fame, that they could be held accountable to a higher standard. A lot of times, I think what happens is these people sometimes get scrutinized even more, and they like to, and whoever's in that particular, I guess you could say, in that law, I guess, division, law enforcement, prosecutors, what have you, they want to set an example a lot of times for these people. Now, the Hernandez's, his attorney, his contention is that there's been a fixation on him, and they weren't maybe concentrating on other people, and they were just, the prosecution is just in a hurry to get him, basically, figuratively speaking, a conviction with barely a trial. But, I mean, anyway. Now, also, the defense contention, in addition to that, is that Hernandez didn't have a legitimate motive. Now, what the prosecution states in this is that Hernandez may have been volatile, he may have been angry at the person he killed, Odin Lloyd, apparently because Lloyd may have known some information about Hernandez that Hernandez did not want divulged or disclosed. Makes me wonder, I know this is real strong speculation and conjecture, but could it be possible that maybe Hernandez said something incriminating to Lloyd pertaining to the double homicide? I think it's a possibility, but whatever it was something that was going to be damning and damaging, assuming that this was the reason and that Hernandez actually did commit this murder. That if that is the case, then it had to be something in Hernandez's mind that was significant. It may have been something that might have been trivial or frivolous to the average person, but to Hernandez, for whatever reason, perhaps this was something, this would have been perhaps this motive to do this, where at the same time the ends don't justify the means. We know that that's not an excuse to rationalize murdering somebody. But perhaps in Hernandez's mind, maybe he felt that he wanted to keep Lloyd's mouth quiet. Maybe that's what happened. But we're going to let the deliberations play out and see how things go. Now, Hernandez's attorney also contends that Hernandez was just a young person or whatever, and he was dumbfounded, confounded, or whatever, and he just happened to witness this crime, and he just happened to be there, and he didn't know what to do, and that was basically it. And what's a shame when I look at this is that Hernandez, to me, based on what he did in those 3 seasons he played with the New England Patriots, I felt like he had very strong potential. He had, in 2011, he had his best season. He had 79 receptions for 910 yards in 14 games. And to me, that's very good. Those are prodigious numbers. Those are something where a lot of people in the NFL at a receiver type position, I think Hernandez was a tight end. Now, if for a tight end, 79 receptions, a lot of people would be content with half of that, with maybe close to 40 receptions. But 79 is a very good number. I don't know the exact his position in terms of the ranking. If he was like, as far as the receptions he had 79 receptions in 2011. But I don't know if that was, whether that was first among tight ends or fifth. That's what I'm saying. I don't know where he was in terms of that positioning. But he was, I'm sure he had to be probably in the top 10 anyway for tight ends, most likely, and as far as receptions for tight end, that's very good. Now, he could have been that quintessential athlete, and now we have to see if he's convicted. I mean, I'm sure he's going to look back and he's going to be thinking, well, why did this have to happen? Why couldn't I have just maybe controlled myself and not done these heinous crimes? I could have been in the NFL, could have had a standout career. And it's just one of those things where I think people that are following this intensely could learn something from this. If you have a child or somebody, it's a teenager or what have you, and this person has aspirations to become a professional athlete, this could be an example that could be used for this person or for these people out there, and that crime does not pay. It's more than just a cliche, I think, and you just have to really think hard before doing something like this. And you don't, just because you're angry or something, you're in a fit of rage, it doesn't give you the right to kill someone, assuming that Hernandez did this and that was a reason for him in his mind to have done this. And we can't, I stated before, that feeling of invincibility, I think, comes over athletes very strongly, especially ones that I think at times could be flourishing, could be really doing well, and they really, I mean, they may not think before doing this. They're going to try to determine, as far as premeditation, if this was all plotted out. It seems like, from what at least the prosecution is saying, that there was a pretext from Hernandez to Lloyd, and it was just basically to meet up. And what essentially happened was, according to the prosecution, the way they're conveying this, is that Hernandez took Lloyd to the place where he was going to ultimately murder him, and that this was a scheme that was plotted out very extensively, and that this was premeditated. So that it's something for people out there, I think, to really think about. I mean, there's testimony from 135 witnesses, I believe 132 with the prosecution, and it's going to be, from what I'm looking at and what I've researched on this online, I'm not saying that everything, it's irrefutable evidence against Hernandez, but it seems very incriminating, and I think that the chances, his prospects of going to jail and being incarcerated are very strong. There's probably some people out there that are Hernandez fans that may be deluding themselves, that are thinking there's no way he could have done this. I even had a prominent family member many years ago when the O.J. Simpson trial was taking place in that general time period, and she had told me that it's just so hard for me to fathom that O.J. Simpson would do something like this. I think a lot of us don't really want to believe that these people that are supposedly are supposed to set this high example and standards for us to live up to, and when they don't meet them, we think, well, or they get, or there's some statement that indicates they didn't meet these expectations. We say, well, no, how could he do this? He's a standout athlete. Athletes are supposed to epitomize character and be emblematic of this, of really what is right as far as their behavior. They're supposed to have exemplary behavior, not just on the field but off it as well. And when they do something that contradicts that, people begin to wonder, well, maybe this was not true. How could he done this? Or how could he have done this? Something so heinous, it can't be true. But unfortunately, the most of us know, the realists do realize that these things do happen, and more often than a lot of people out there believe. And just because somebody is a superstar athlete, that doesn't mean they're going to be infallible. There's some speculation, I believe, that Hernandez may have been on some kind of drug at this time, maybe PCP. I don't think they ever proved it. There seems to be some talk about his, what I believe, I think the prosecution attorney is calling the Confederates, the people that were supposedly in on this with Hernandez, who collaborated with him, whatever, on this crime, and that they may have been on it. I don't know if they were tested or not. They may have proven that. That I'm unclear of, whether the two other people supposedly with Hernandez, if they were actually tested and it was confirmed that they were on anything as far as recreational drugs, or they were not. But there's at the very least strong speculation that they were. And anyway, I just want to close with just about learning maybe a lesson from this, people, that just because somebody is a certain position in life, it doesn't give them the right to do anything like this. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what your stature is. You could be working some menial, mundane job, or what people perceive as one, or you could be a celebrity, someone of celebrity status. Either way. And it's also important, if this was drug related and it was something where Hernandez was was under some influence, really try to, if you got kids out there, people, if you are somebody that's a teenager and you have aspirations for greater things in sports, becoming a professional athlete, think about this and use this, perhaps this Aaron Hernandez trial as an example for yourself, don't succumb to any drug use. And like I said, I don't know 100% if Hernandez was doing something like this, but if he was, and if it's ever somehow proven he was, well, then it's something to look at and really apply in your own life. And I don't mean doing the same thing, replicating it, but I mean doing the opposite and staying away from drugs, staying away from maybe wrong contemporaries or peers in your life, just trying to focus on what you need to do. You could do things, you could be happy, you could be in an exultant or elated state or euphoric state without having to do anything recreational as far as drug use goes, because that's only going to get you into trouble. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube segment, and until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.